And away we go. Hello. Welcome to the Big Freakin Friday on College Football Mafia Network. I'm your host, Nathan Bomber Brown. With me are my co-hosts and partners, and I would call that in crime because we're kind of stealing time from other things. That would be Moen and Wild Dude. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing great.
Good.
We're Mafia members. Of course we're stealing.
That's
Cheers.
what I say.
Georgia Tech,
Absolutely.
Syracuse. Come on.
Yeah, so let's get
Mafia.
let's get that going right now. We got some drinking game action going. We're now on Syracuse. We're now on Georgia Tech, and we're encouraging everybody to participate if legally. Feel free to tip it back a little bit. If you hear Syracuse or Georgia Tech, just take a little swig, and so we'll see where you are at the end of the night. I would keep it low because I think there's going to be a little bit of that tonight. But we appreciate everybody for being here. It's Friday night. Everybody's out doing stuff. We're really grateful that you guys are spending some time with us tonight. We're going to go over all the news. ACC, Florida State, the NCAA settlement with House, etc. And just big news. It's been a big news week, and we're here to do that with you. I want to thank everybody for being here. Make sure you follow us all on Twitter. See our handles underneath our pictures there. Also subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you turn on your notifications. And last but not least, make sure you subscribe and consider becoming a member of the College Football Mafia Network. Moen, how do they do that?
Sure, you just want to go in the chat window down to the little cash icon, click on that, and you can see the membership. You can unlock your own membership, or you could go and gift memberships to the community. That's always appreciated. We're providing you a lot of entertainment and content behind our members-only section, including Wild Ute University, Timeline, Kuz's Corner. We've got some other things coming down the pike, so definitely something I would suggest that you do. Become a member of the family. Join us. We're going to get bigger. Get in on the ground floor here, guys.
Something that's really, really important. We want to accentuate the positives, and that's our memberships provide access to Wild Ute University and all of our videos that are members only. That stuff that we're doing for you, nobody asked us to do it. We're doing it because it's a service that we want to provide to Mafia members, and we're very glad that we're able to do it. So I encourage everybody to go to that member section and jump in there and watch those videos. We might refer to some of those later in the show, but right now we're going to jump right into the news. So Ute, what's your top of mind as we're going into this Friday holiday weekend? A lot of stuff going on. What's on your top of mind tonight?
There's so much stuff going on right now. I have a side project that I'm super excited to share. I mentioned it before. Dr. S is a doctor, and he actually has a background in data analysis and stats. He has broken out all the TV viewership numbers over the last few years to get a reading on how to look at TV viewership. If you're a realignment nut like us, like seriously, I love realignment. I want to understand it. I want to be able to predict it. And the one area that's most important for data analysis is viewership. We all know that TV viewership, there's different ways to look at it. You can look at the raw data. You can look behind a black box like a lot of folks on social media have. You have no freaking idea how they calculate it. We've got an actual guy that does this, knows what he's doing, and we're going to walk through exactly how he does it. So there's transparency here, and we're going to see really who drives what as far as media viewership. What's the expected type of viewership you get from a game? And what that's going to tell us is really who's the attractive candidates for realignment from a media company standpoint. So huge things on the horizon. I've looked at the data set earlier today for at least the last year, and it's fascinating stuff, guys. Can't wait to share it with you. I'm not quite ready yet, but that's what's going on in the back.
I've also reached out to Sam Bradshaw. If anybody knows realignment and knows numbers, value, brand quality, all that stuff, Sam Bradshaw is the king of all that data. And we're possibly working on a side project with him as well. So always doing that work for you. We hope that you guys appreciate it. If you have questions, make sure you shoot them to us on Twitter or leave them in the comments section for the show. That's really important because that's how we frame kind of shows that are coming up. Referring back to that, if you want to join us and be part of the show, make sure you leave a note in the comment section. We defer to members' comments first. Those are the ones we'll read generally before we read anything else. And then super chats always get deferred. So if we receive a super chat, that's something that comes right in the door, and we talk about it as soon as we can when they come up. Moen, what's going on with gift memberships? How does that work?
Yeah, you just go to the cash icon the same way you would leave a super chat, become a member. It's all in that cash icon, people. Just click on it. Membership gift. You can gift memberships to the community. And, everybody's usually very, very, very good about thanking people for getting a membership and paying it forward. So, and obviously, we need the super chats because I got to stay blinged out here.
That's right. That's
Mona's
right.
fake bling. Come on, guys.
I love it. All right, we're about at the time. Let's get some hellos before we get to the news. Let's start with Timothy Green says, looks like another great show. Let's rock and roll, baby. Thank you very much, Timothy Green. Timothy Green is a member, and here he's saying how happy he is to be here tonight. Buckshot Kid, oh, hey, at the College Football Mafia. Wild Ute, Mafia drink, baby. That icon's awesome. David Hackett, another member, says it's a holiday weekend. Hello, Bomber, Moen, and Wild Ute. Thank you very much, Daniel. Glenn Lumen in the Philippines. Good morning from the Philippines. This ride gets wilder by the day. It does. Ute was all over it today, by the way. He's all jazzed up to talk about some of these data points.
Gosh.
Antoine Code says, Mafia Georgia Tech drink, Mafia whiskey bot. Happy Friday, y'all. Mafia drink. I love reading those little icon things. That's cool.
Yeah, the icon thing. Why can't we see the icons?
I don't know.
That's another member's benefit. If you're a member, you get to use those special emotes.
I love it.
Which are all available for you.
I love it. That's
Pictures worth 1,000 words.
Bob Swanger, another member, says, good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here, Bob. We have, let's see, Daniel Copter says, what's the skillet and who's the chef? I don't know. We'll have to see. Who is it?
Let him cook now.
Can't hear it, Moen.
Oh.
I said, let him cook.
I don't know. My volume must be
okay. You can work on that. Dallas Marquez says, hello from Kansas. Thanks for being here, Dallas. Thank you very much. Daniel Gygax says, using my Boone County, West Virginia math, this deal is a lot of money. Using my Sacramento State engineering degree, wow, people are getting paid.
Oh, my gosh, right?
Yeah, and those dollars can change depending on where you're at and what position you play on what sport. We're going to talk about all that tonight. Joe Z says, my pants are soaked. That's nice, Joe. Good to have you here. Let's see. Don in Kansas. Hey, guys. Moen, living in a pimp house. Moen live from the pimp house.
Tell them to bring me my money.
We might need to go a little low on the volume, Moen. Okay. Just a little too high.
We're getting there,
though. Story of my life. Too low, too high.
Mr. SEC, Jay Chapman in the house. Good to have you here, Jay. We're doing it live. That's true. We are doing it live. Minnesota Seminoles says hello. Good to have you here, Minnesota Seminoles. Rock Chalk says, hey, guys. Illini Ted in the house saying happy unofficial start to summer all. Yeah, where I can't believe it. I swear it was just
lie.
December.
Is it true? It's just start to summer?
I know, it's insane.
Bomber, you and I are wearing long sleeve stuff. It's cold out here.
It is cold outside. Yeah, it is. Yeah, we still got snow in the mountains. So Daniel Gygax says MTV Cribs in Ohio. That's Moen right there. Devil Frog, the OG in the house, saying howdy. Ty Kev representing our Discord. Happy everyone. Hope everyone enjoys a nice Memorial Day weekend. And I would add to that, make sure you salute and pay attention to people that are veterans, they're law enforcement, anybody who provides services for all of us. I would recommend tipping your hat to them and tell them thank you. And then that's where we're going to end with our hellos. I think we'll jump right to the news next. Okay, Moen, what's your top of mind going into the weekend?
Florida State Seminoles settling quick.
Okay.
Greg said it. I don't have any reason to doubt him. So any day now.
Yeah, so let's talk about that because I don't have an article on that. That was just on PATC last night. It broke right before the show that I had last night, and it was a little interesting because we haven't seen anything else about it, right? There's just this sense that maybe they want to settle. Do you guys believe that's where it's at? Do you think whatever Greg's being told? By the way, Greg he's reporting what other people are telling him, right? He's not making stuff up. I want to be very clear. Anybody who listens to his show, if you think that he's just making this up and telling people what's going to happen or making some wild prediction, Greg doesn't do that. Peek around the corner doesn't do that, and we certainly wouldn't intimate that he was. But you heard what he said last night. What did you think about the Florida State ACC talk?
I think it's advantageous for both parties as long as the dollars are right. We've talked about it on this channel before, in the Big 12 Mafia channel. I think that we need to reframe. Well, actually, depending on what party you are, Florida State and Clemson have a different math game than other schools in the ACC, like an NC State, like a Syracuse, like a Virginia Tech, because it's all about your options, right? So if you're going to the P2, if you've got an invite to the P2, a likely invite to the P2, like Florida State or Clemson, then the math game is so much greater and it's so much easier to make those numbers work that you're going to be willing to pay a lot more money than a school like Virginia Tech that'll be jumping over to the Big 12, say. And so when we broke out the analysis a few weeks ago, we were looking at the Big 12, ACC survival in relation to the Big 12.
Right.
And we were saying, hey, you know what, based on what we're seeing, around $300 million, if it's more than $300 million per school, that's the point where it makes sense. If it's less than 300 and significantly less than 300, it does not make sense financially and stuff for its teams to stick around the ACC. And that was after Florida State and Clemson had left the building. But we never looked at what it would look like for Florida State and Clemson, what their math looks like for the P2. And that's significantly greater because of the benefits of going to the P2 conferences, like Greg's mentioned, with the media payouts, ticket sales, and everything else. So how much would Florida State be willing to pay? More than $400 billion? More than $350 million? I mean, definitely the long math seems like it would work. So I think that, hey, it could work out like that. If the ACC and Florida State agree to it and Florida State's good with paying that much money, then yeah, it could be the best for all parties. It's just crazy to think that Florida State actually would pay that out, though, right? Like, it's a ton of money. It's $500 million essentially.
Minnesota,
so much big money.
Minnesota Seminoles is telling us, get us out now. We know how we know how Seminole fans feel, right?
Just like Jen Santi was on the show on Tuesday, and she's like, I don't care if it's 500 million, 600 million, we'll make the dollars work, get us out no matter what. Hey, if that is the thought process, the ACC is going to do business because there is a number that makes sense for everybody. It's not going to nuke the ACC if you leave. And that number is a high number, right? Like 400, 500, 600 million dollars. So, hey, it may make sense for all parties if Florida State can do that, if they can work out the dollars and they get private loans for that or whatever means they have to financing it. So there might be something there for sure. The question, though, especially for this channel that focuses a lot on Big 12 content, like what happens after that domino falls with the next schools? Right. I'm fascinated with that. It goes back to that ACC survival math that we did, and that's going to be a crazy, crazy game if the Noles actually make that settlement move. Because what happens next? Does Clemson do it? Can they afford it too? I don't know. It's nuts, man.
So we were trying to think about what that number was, and I need to write it down. When we settled, was it 320 or 300 that we decided they would need to leave for the ACC to really feel strong enough to keep going long term?
Yeah, so like the long-term math, looking at once Florida State and Clemson are gone,
right?
They're off the board. They've paid what they're going to pay. The rest of the schools, looking at the decreased media value that we were estimating, it was $294 million to bridge like the ACC contract versus the Big 12 contract, and like the future worth of the cash flows, looking at a present value analysis. So 294 is the number. You could just say 300 if you want to round up to 300 million.
Sure.
That is not including any potential exit fees. You'd have to think that like the exit fees are going to come into play. How much is it going to be exit fee for Virginia Tech or somebody else? At that point, you decide to fold the conference. Like seriously, if there's enough teams that it's not making sense anymore based on like a renegotiated lower ACC media deal, does Stanford, Cal, SMU even want to be in conference anymore? Right? Like you might have enough horses there just to fold the dang thing if you have a majority vote at that time. So there's a lot that could go. But it's going to get real wild. I mean, Florida State is the biggest shoe. It's the biggest shoe to drop, but it's just going to get crazier after they leave.
Moen, what do you think? I know you said in Greg we trust, but really, if they are going to settle, in your opinion, what does that number look like?
$350 to $375 million.
Okay, and I think
that
if it's
includes
that
the
high,
grant.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's the grant of rights and the exit fee
Right.
put together.
Right.
And then the games begin
Yeah.
because they're going to have the option of the Big Ten or the SEC, and who's going to give them a better offer?
Right.
For some of us might say the Big Ten can give you a full share, become a partner in the Big Ten network right off the bat, have marquee games all over America on 3 national broadcast channels, or you can go to the SEC and play on ESPN every week.
I'm going to take this right here just because this is a great way to put it. TF Williams, another member, says Greg had a letter on his show. This is from last night. Peek around the corner. From an FSU money person saying almost anything would be paid. I'm just going to go on record right now and say if they can get $350 million, the ACC can get that much, they'll be around. North Carolina's not going to go anywhere. The cost for them to leave and give up the income that they're doing, I think the ACC stabilizes and they stay basically where they're at. If they can't get plus 325, then I do believe that the conference is teetering on relegation, if you want to put it that way, where the schools can find other places to go. The one thing I would caution people is that while we get Greg gets people telling him stuff, we have people telling us stuff. At the end of the day, we're being told what other people are telling us, and we have to either trust it or not trust it, right? So it just because somebody reports something to you doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen. So I just want to caution everybody. Almost anything seems crazy to me. I don't know what the rush is for Florida State. I know the people are getting anxious. You just saw that.
I know what the rush is, Nate.
Okay, tell everybody.
Time is money. The time that they're locked into the ACC is time they're not in a conference making higher revenue. So that's why. It's
still a 2-year ride either way.
Right. Well, depending, you can negotiate out of that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess all I'm saying is you could go another 8 months, and I don't think the number changes. So why rush to get it done this second?
I think they want to ingratiate themselves and get themselves integrated into whatever conference they choose.
Okay, that's
the quicker
fair.
You can do that, but it's easier to onboard the further out you are. So, say they get out in August of this year, they could be ready for August of next year for the Big Ten.
Okay. All right. We'll have to put that in the book and see. Everybody, we really appreciate the comments. Boy, we've got some really good comments that's going through here. I'm going to go through some of these. We're going to do this live right now. Replica says, a quick settlement doesn't necessarily mean the ACC will get the number they want. The threat of Discovery and ESPN's invisible hand is still a factor here. And that's why if the number is big, they say big, they want 350. I think the number is going to be less than 200. So.
Hey, man, if they get over 300 guys, the ACC survival jumps up high, right? Really, over 300 million is like that key threshold.
Agreed.
And really, if they get 350, 375, like Moen's saying, then like ACC survival is highly likely. It just depends on what ESPN wants to renegotiate at, right? When they readjust that contract down, based on what we're saying, it's going to be a loss of value in that contract, about 35, 36%. If it's greater than that because of the crap media environment, the numbers look worse and stuff. It's still a tough decision because what we're not talking about for ACC survival too is like after this contract cycle ends, like what's going to happen to your schools if the schools remain in the ACC after Florida State and Clemson leave until 2036. Are you going to get more exposure in the ACC over that next decade or less exposure? How good your conference is going to be? It's probably going to see significant deterioration in football and probably seen as like that fourth conference, right? And lose a lot of media value upside for that next deal to be negotiated in 2036. So you've got to actually think real forward looking stuff when you're making long-term decisions like that. So there's a lot that comes into play, but really 300 million is massive. That number is massive. So Florida State pays over 300 million. Clemson pays over 300 million. ACC survival is looking pretty strong.
The Almighty Finn, another member, says this Knowles fan him wants the SEC, but at this moment, I'll take the Big Ten. Just get out of the ACC. I think if we were to do a vote or took a poll of all Florida State fans in the entire world, I bet you at this point, 95% of them want them to just write a check. Doesn't matter what the number is, and they want to move on. Right? It's their urgency to get it done is what's driving this. And I don't know. We'll find out. It's really, really interesting.
Something's coming to a head, though, right?
Right.
You can just feel it, right?
Yeah.
Something's happening here.
Right. Absolutely. Rock and Rant, one of our contributors, says, so at $80 million per year extra value, getting out 2 years earlier means you are willing at a wash to pay $160 million more than we might have, though they would settle for less. What do you guys think about that? That's the number. Do that math.
That's true, but let's say they make a run in the college football playoff.
Right.
There's other things beyond the general media revenue that's going to boost them. That Big Ten payout, that Big Ten network payout is not in the Big Ten media numbers. That's a separate number based on how many households you're in.
Right.
Adding a Florida market, that could, be a huge jump in revenue for the Big Ten network, which is in turn a big jump for Florida State. So I don't know if that 80 million counts all the additional revenue joining a conference like the Big Ten or the SEC could provide.
Well, and you're assuming a full share too, right?
They get a full share.
I'm saying that's his assumption. That's where that number comes from. Just so people know. Do you want to add anything to that?
$80 million a year, like Rock's saying, is pretty expensive. There's something to say about once the decision's made to get out, you do whatever it takes to get out. I understand that. On the other side, like the math, does that work out? I don't know. It's really, that's probably debate for like your board of directors level and stuff to have that conversation to see which one makes more sense. If it's this year, next year, or 2 years, that's one that's probably open for discussion. Honestly, it's probably sixes.
Okay.
It's probably 50-50 on that.
DP, obviously a Clemson fan, is saying $300 million would be seen as an investment into their future. So we're assuming Florida State and Clemson, who are both suing right now to get out, would be the ones that are obvious. And if he's a Clemson fan, so obviously he understands their money situation. I'm not up on Clemson's money situation like North Carolina's or Florida State's, for instance. But if he's saying they'd write a check for $300 million and be an investment in your future, that's kind of your contention, right, Mo? And that's what you're saying.
You're investing in yourself, of course.
Right.
You're gonna be lower than the people you're joining in the conference because you're paying off that loan. But once that loan appreciates, and here's the thing. I've said this from the beginning. The Big Ten, if you're joining the Big Ten, they're probably going to pay off some of that for you, with an interest-free loan that you never have to pay back. So,
well, tell them why they did that for Rutgers. They're doing that for Washington and Oregon. So
they give them extra $10 million in travel money that you'll never have to reimburse.
Exactly. Okay.
Would love to see the Big Ten financial statements. My gosh. Just like seriously its own country.
Almighty Finn, again, following up on this. This is a great conversation, guys. Thank you so much for everybody being here. We are live talking about Florida State, ACC, and survival odds on how that conference is running. That's where we're at. We haven't even gotten into the rest of the news for the rest of the week, but this was top of mind. We wanted to address this right away. Almighty Finn says, be honest, do you really think FSU can get out of the ACC for less than $300 million? Because I heard FSU said they didn't mind paying a high number just to get out, which is what we're repeating. So let's do a poll, Moen. Let's put a poll in the field and ask everybody:
300.
Is $300 million? Is $300 million enough?
Let's do the ranges. We'll do.
Okay.
We'll start at what do we call? We call low end 250.
80 to 150, I would say.
Well, we'll just call it 150 or
okay,
less.
that's fine.
So 150, 300, or 450, maybe. What about that?
Sure, that sounds good. Morris Simmons says we want out like yesterday.
The Null fans are like,
we get it. We get it. Nobody is saying Florida State people want to stay in the ACC. I haven't seen that in months. It's funny, though, when we first started talking about this, how much did we get last summer? Florida State's never leaving. We love the ACC. Clemson, we love the ACC. Isn't
Oh,
that
speaking
interesting?
of
How
that,
it's
Bomber,
changed?
can we please, like, I know not now, maybe, but like,
Right.
we got to get to the ACC conspiracy article. I want to
Oh,
go to that
geez.
so
Okay,
bad.
let's get through the news first, okay?
We'll get through the news.
Okay.
Y'all, you can hang on the line to see this ACC conspiracy theory. It's amazing. It's by Virginia Tech Hokie fans are awesome, but
Uh,
they really they love numbers. They love conspiracy theories. So we're
all
gonna
right.
see
Let me
that.
get to the news. Hang on one second. All right. Here we go. Save. Scroll. All right, here we go. All right, news story. We're going to start with a Ross Dellinger tweet that basically breaks down the 10-year settlement that recently was announced yesterday, approved by everybody. Moen, really quick, tell everybody who approved that settlement yesterday.
The NCAA Board of Governors approved it, and that was after all the autonomous conferences approved it.
And that's done deal. It's over, people. All they need to do now is go to a judge and then have it filed and actually put in the record. I'm going to show everybody this. We're going to walk through this step by step. At every point, we will talk about the different pieces of this so that we don't miss the thread at all. So Ross Dellinger took the entire article and all the news and broke it down into individual pieces. So the title of this is a thread on NCAA's historic 10-year settlement that will pay back damages of 2.8 billion, at least 15 billion in revenue share, and reshape the governance, enforcement, and scholarship structure of major college athletics. So if you didn't know, you know now. This changes the future. For now on, the paradigm is different for college athletics, specifically football. All right, here we go. Back damages. How much did they get? 2.776 billion over 10 years. Who's paying it? The NCAA national office pays 40%. Schools pay 60%. To who gets paid? 15 to 25,000 Division I athletes who played from 2016 to 2020-ish. And the distribution allocation formula used with an estimated 90% to P5 football and men's basketball players, and that's roughly 6,000 athletes. Who else doesn't get paid, Moen?
What do you mean? I'm not following you. What do you mean? Who doesn't get paid?
Who's getting the most money? The most money is going to P5. Who's not getting the most money?
Well, no. Who's getting the most money in this is the lawyers.
Okay.
All right.
All right. That's
the
fair.
lawyers are
Very
taking their
good.
chunk first.
Right.
So yes, P5 would get, or A5, whatever we're calling them until the Pac-12 is no longer an autonomous conference. The money would mostly be distributed to players in there because they are the players that would have actually received NIL.
Okay.
You're going to have some certain exceptions for basketball players at some of the smaller schools like a Creighton or, some successful basketball players. But yeah, probably 95% of it is going to go to the autonomous 5 football players.
Which is interesting because they're the ones who negotiated this, and they left the balance to fall on the conferences that are autonomous conferences. So it's pretty extraordinary. They do the negotiating, but then they don't cut the people in that are actually going to be paying a lot of this fee, right? It's really interesting that they weren't even part of the negotiation. It was just the autonomous conferences. All right, let me get back to this. Go ahead.
Isn't that messed up though?
I think it is.
Like,
yeah,
we've heard that all along and everything, but just leaving somebody out and saying, "Hey, you need to pay a bag now," when you don't really have a big budget—that's so freaking messed up. Just making that point and everything, like there's nothing they can do about it. These smaller conferences and everything, but that is not cool, and they're stuck with it. Stuck with a decision that's made by not even peer conferences, based on A4 or 5 conferences for those other guys. So tough times, man. Not cool, not fair.
All right, we'll get back to this article. Here we go. Let me go back to my main screen. I skipped one of them. The second tile that he put in here is tweet. We will talk about this later with a special guest we have coming on. That's Jason Watkins from the Hall of Fame College Football channel. He will be here at 8 Eastern. So we're looking at a half hour. But it's the revenue share piece. What the money is, 20 to 22 million. And it's fluid, it's changing, will escalate based on school revenue figures. A lot like Premier League. If you make more money, you can spend more money. The money's coming from the schools. It's going to the athletes. The distribution is school discretion. Title IX applies. What does that mean? What does Title IX applies, guys?
That means that the women's sports are going to get paid out an equal share of these funds.
Is that established, or is it a fluid thing? Could they get less?
I don't think they're going to get less at all. Title IX makes it for equal payments. So I don't. If we're saying Title IX, we're saying that everyone's getting equal payments.
Right.
Look, that's why this like in-house sharing of media contract revenue and stuff. That's why it's not the in solution, because the football players are going to want more money. They're going to want their allocation of worth and everything. And when you've got to split it based on Title IX, that's when outside NIL and collectives and stuff still exists to fund that. So really, players are just going to double dip, guys. I want to be real honest and stuff. They're going to make even more from this stuff because they're going to get a baseline salary from sharing media rights revenue. And then all of a sudden they're going to get NIL contracts on the side. So it's a freaking great day to be a player. It is a great day.
Free market system. That's the best way to do it. Free market, laissez-faire. Take your hands off the NIL. Let the NIL pay whatever the NIL wants to pay. And then maximize the media revenue for them players.
Okay, let's get to enforcement. Let's talk about how they're actually going to put this into place. The enforcement mechanism that's in this negotiated deal, court oversight. Athletes are supposed to report any third-party NIL money. So what that means is they're going to get a cut of the profits, which is this 20 to 22% we're going to talk in a little bit. But then they can also do their third-party NIL deals. So you're talking about double dipping. Some of these players are going to be triple dipping if you start talking about getting major endorsements on top of NIL. I'm not going to worry about the others because until they actually do it, I don't really want to highlight any of the other enforcement mechanisms. Roster change. This is really important. Eliminate scholarship caps. What's that mean, guys?
That means that Ohio State's set right there, because scholarship limits in football have been a burden for Ohio State for a long time. And if there's no scholarship limits, you're eliminating those. That's what that's saying. There's no limit. So as long as you can fund the player pool, then you can.
That's insanity.
Right?
We're helping young men get an education. Why do you have to make it sound so dirty?
All right.
Wait. Hold on a second. Is education anything about this? We should remove like student athlete from our language here. I think it's just athlete.
Many of them who get their degrees, and then many of them who go pro come back and get their degrees. So
there we go.
I want to, and let me put this back up there because I think that's hilarious. The way he writes this, it's a little confusing because right down here it actually says, well, let me get to it. New roster limits, nothing's implemented. Ability to provide scholarships to the entire roster. So whoever's there, they can all have scholarships, which they kind of already do now. BYU does. All their players are on scholarship. The 85 or whatever that number is. This is the big one. This right here. Potential football roster reduction to as few as 85 roster spots. Those are in ongoing discussions. Ute and I hope that actually happens because that'll equal the playing field. If there's only 85 roster people on each team, it means more players are available out in the world to play football for my team, for Utah. So that 85 number, if that's actually fixed, that helps us. And it kind of screws Ohio State and Michigan and Alabama.
Let's get it done.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that 85 number is the age that's the max for people who can play on BYU and Utah.
It's the max.
We'll find out. It's the max that's going to be on Ohio State.
You'd be surprised. I mean, BYU's got a big-time budget nowadays and stuff with the billionaire benefactors, so I don't know.
He is contributing a little bit. It's true. And then let's get to a few more. We're almost to the bottom of this. Title IX applies. We talked about a minute ago. I'm still not sure if it is 50-50 with that revenue sharing. Title IX says everything's supposed to be equal, but I've read articles that tell me it's not so simple. And then the last one is the governance or other things that are involved in the settlement. Potential new Division I subdivision for increased power conference rulemaking. Moen, what's that?
That means they get to set their own rules.
Okay, I'm just telling you, this is hard for me to keep a straight face, okay? These are hilarious to me. Okay, potential new Division I subdivision, increased power conference rulemaking. All right, it's our party. We get to make the rules. Flexibility for leagues to set some own rules. Again, it's our party, our own rules. Revenue sharing model could be extended beyond 10 years. They could negotiate this contract to go forever and ever, but I don't think that's going to happen. And the last thing is plaintiffs agree to lobby on behalf of NCAA's efforts seeking congressional protections. Before we cut away from that, I want to go to, let me make sure I've got the right article before I go to the screen. This statement from the Reverend at Notre Dame. Moen, you're going to love this one.
Yeah.
Last night, the leading president, Reverend John Jenkins, who's actually oversees Notre Dame University, says this, the settlement, though undesirable in many respects and promising only temporary stability, is necessary to avoid what would be the bankruptcy of college athletics. To save the great American institution of college sports, again, I'm trying to keep my face straight, Congress must pass. This is it. Please save us. Congress must pass legislation that will preempt the current patchwork of state laws, establish that our athletes are not employees, but students seeking college degrees, and provide protection from further antitrust lawsuits that will allow colleges to make and enforce rules that will protect our student athletes and help ensure our competitive equity among our teams. Moen, Notre Dame throwing the hammer.
There's a lot of Catholics out there that vote, Congress. I hope you're paying attention.
All right, what do you think about that last piece? The fact that he has the gall to say it's going to come and we need Congress to save us.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment too. I think that a lot of folks think that in the athletic director space, and but one of the things that stood out to me was just the pleading to not make student athletes employees. Did you notice that? I specifically called out. Do you know why? It's because Notre Dame's totally screwed if that happens. If and when that happens, because they're going to have to manage all that themselves without being at the conference level.
Right.
They're so screwed, guys. That's like their worst nightmare. So like the Big Ten's just licking their chops and stuff and just letting Notre Dame sweat it out, because that is a big deal. And obviously it's being spoke to clearly.
You want to add anything to that, Moen, or I can get to the super chat?
Nope, go ahead and grab that super chat.
All right, let's do it. Super chats are in. If you're new to the channel, I'm going to move you up here. He's better looking than Moen is.
Yeah,
we do super chats. We read all super chats. Just want to make sure everybody knows that. Mark Bowman, $10. He's also a member. Says, is the $22 million essentially a salary cap that will be divided $11 million each for women's and men's sports? Ute just spoke to it. He thinks Title IX is going to cut that in half. We're gonna talk about it in 20 minutes. We're gonna talk about it with Jason Watkins, but we can preface it right now. What do you guys think?
I think it's a minimum wage. That's what you can think about it. It's not necessarily a cap at all. Like, it's just a wage. Like, it's the worker's wage for being a student athlete in the department. I think it's going to be split pretty equally between men and women's, because that's the purpose of Title IX. I don't know how you steal a bunch of those funds and give them to the football players. But on the other hand, I think that the collectives exist and they still get paid like they are. I mean, seriously, the collectives are not – the money's not coming from the schools to the collectives. It's coming from the boosters right now. That's going to continue. And a lot of the athletes in the football realm are going to get paid that way. It's going to be outside of the school still. It's not going to be in-house, so you're avoiding Title IX for the time being. So I just think that is basically a minimum wage, and just like a wage, I guess, minimum wage, whatever you want to call it for that athletic department and all of that.
There's a lot of news out there. Actually, Jason is in the wings. Let's just bring you on now, Jason. Join the show and let's talk about this. You're in here. We're ready to go. Join the show and we'll talk about it right this second. Articles all over on Twitter explaining different things about this money, Title IX, who gets all of it. One thing I want to dispel that people are thinking, and the wording of this super chat even kind of says it, is it a salary cap? In essence, all it is the minimum wage each school is willing. They can pay up to 20 or 22 million to their student athletes. We're not sure how it has to be divided, but that's just the minimum wage for the university.
That's the minimum. If a university brings in more revenue, they can pay more. So an Ohio State could end up paying 60 to 65 million based off of total revenue.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So the minimum will be Moen gets $5, but he does an NIL deal in the back room, and he's making $200 million. And he doesn't have to share it with anybody. It's not paid through the university. So it's
That's
pretty
the way you do
extraordinary.
it. Like, and there's going to be lawsuits that are trying to get that money back in house eventually too. But that's the way to move the nut around to get the football players more money. Exactly, Bomber.
I don't know. Jason's not joining for some. Hey, Jason, get in here so we can talk about this in more detail because I've got more info. While we're waiting for you, let's get to some comments that have come in. Let's see here. Buckshot Kid says, funny looking is better than looking. Put Moen back up there. Oh, wow. Look at that. They don't want you.
Hey,
they want
put Moen back in his place. That's good. Put him up there. Move me back down to the bottom. It's what the people want.
Wait a second. Why is Nate always in the top left? Maybe I want to be in the top left.
I'm the boss. That's why. All right. Mr. Monkey says, easy for the Ohio State fan to champion the free market system.
Hey, even if I was a Toledo fan, I would champion the free market system. It's a system that works best.
All right. Very good. There he is. All right. Let's get to this. Hey, Jason, how we doing?
What's up?
What's up, guys? How are we doing?
Thanks
for having me on.
Doing well.
Hey, we're glad. I appreciate you posting a comment. That way we knew you were around.
Awesome. Yeah, Laura was saying something about Baker Mayfield transferring and stuff, so I had to chime in on that one.
Okay. Wait, just because they mention Oklahoma doesn't mean we need to talk about Oklahoma.
No, not at all. No.
All right, let's jump into this. What you and I talked about earlier today, we're talking about this idea of the revenue sharing and where that money's going to go and who gets it and all. Tell us what you're thinking about it.
Man, I think that there's a lot of moving parts to it, and I'm not sure that we're done with all these lawsuits yet, are we? I mean, it looks like there's still some stuff that's going to
there's the Colorado one that's still hanging out there. That's right. Yep.
So I mean,
this settles 3 of the many that are out there.
Right. So that's where I kind of feel like you're looking at a situation where it's probably going to continue to evolve as we go. I think it's good overall that although it's not taking away the NIL, the hope is for me is that the NIL will become what the NIL is supposed to be, which is, actual endorsements rather than just, another way to pay cash. Although right. I don't think that, it's not like I expect that to change anything really, to be frank about it. So I don't know, man. If it slows down some of this movement, gets the right people paid, I'm not angry at kids. The one thing that I've said all the way through any of this stuff is that none of these athletes have made a single rule.
Right.
Not one of them. They've gone by the rules that have been set by, the adults in the room, quote unquote. So to me, I feel like you're in a situation where it could only get better, but I don't know that I trust the NCAA to, spearhead any of this stuff.
Right. Why would you? They're one of the most corrupt organizations in the United States.
Yeah, there's no two ways around it. But it's just it's hard to. I don't know how you kill them though. I don't know how you kill them off. So it's a large organization with lots of attorneys and a bunch of people that don't need to be there that certainly don't have the best interest of student athletes. And
so we were just speaking, and I think you were here. You caught most of it.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen with Title IX? You gave the strict definition, which is it's supposed to be equal, right? Men's and women's are supposed to be equal.
Well, I think equal isn't equal. If you have one sport for the men, you have to have a sport for the women, right?
Yeah,
it's not going to be money wise. It's just a sport. So if you have football, then you can add, gymnastics. It's not the same. You know what I mean?
You just think it's about participation. You don't think it's about the money.
I don't think it's about money. No, not from anything that I've ever seen as being a reporter. I think it's always been about you have to offer the same amount of opportunity is what it is. That's included. So that we're talking about in the Title IX is about scholarships, though. It's not about. I don't think it has. It was never anything to do with paying players up until the last few years, and especially obviously, yesterday when they changed this. But so I think it's all a participation thing and giving them scholarships and an opportunity to be able to, which, hey, look, I think that most of us, right? I mean, I'd like to ask you guys, but it feels to me like that's the one thing that should have been the scariest for most of these universities, because particularly if you're not in one of these two power conferences, the SEC or the Big Ten,
Right.
that you're making $100 million a year plus, right? How are you going to be? And I mean, I'm surprised that they landed on 22% or whatever it is. So that $20 million number, that was kind of surprising. I was expecting it to go a little higher, but I think that like Big 12 programs, Kansas State's a good example of this. It's a good school, but they're not making a ton of money, right?
Ute, what do you think about this?
No, let Jason finish his thoughts here, because I'm going to pull up like Sportico. We'll look at the financials. We'll try to.
Oh, I thought he was done. I'm sorry.
No, I was thinking, to me, I just feel like you get into a situation with this where that was the thing, is that if you have to keep the same amount of, if you're giving half of it away, which I'd heard half was going to be the number, half of the revenue was going to be the number, half goes to players, half goes to the school.
Let me read it. Let me read it what it says. It says revenue sharing.
It's not that now. I know it's 22% is what they said, right?
It's 22 million. 20 to 22 million, not percent.
No,
Okay.
I think Jason is right. I think it's a percent, because
It was a
scaled.
percentage and it was landing around 20. Yeah, but
We're saying the same thing. I'm just saying the amount of money is the same.
I'm saying a couple of weeks ago, as we were leading up to this point, I've heard more like a 50-50 split. So whatever the revenue would have been, it wouldn't have been 20 million. It might have been 20 million in the Big 12, but it wouldn't have been 20 million for the SEC. So if you're taking half of that revenue to pay players with in the Big 12, a place like Kansas State cannot afford to keep certain sports. There's just no two ways around it. Right? That's what I'm saying. And that's what I was saying, Joe. Yeah. Not every sport makes 100 million. So if it was at a 50% instead of 22%, if it was 50%, I think that could have been it. As much as it almost felt like, that they were kind of weaseling their way out of having to pay the right amount or whatever. Then again, it may have saved smaller conference schools that don't have the revenue of it. I mean, because even in the Big 12, you were just talking about BYU's got plenty of money, right? I think that Oklahoma State, they do pretty well. Texas Tech, they're up around 100 million a year in revenue anyway, right? That's where they have been or whatever, somewhere in that area. So, but when you start looking at K-State, they're probably closer to what, 65, 70 million.
Let's take a look at that. As perfect segue in here. I'm going to share the screen. Will you show that, Bomber?
Of course.
Okay, so tell me when you're with me.
We can see it.
Okay, so K-State, here's their financials from the last fiscal year end. Okay, so the whole athletic department made $102 million, okay? Like Jason's saying. I'm agreeing 100% with everything you're saying, Jason. But basically what we're doing right now, if we were on the budget committee for K-State, we're looking at the expenses. K-State last year spent $95 million, and we're haircutting this by $20 million, right? That's really what they're doing. Minus $20 million, where's that coming from? K-State's reporting $32 million in miscellaneous expenses. Don't know what those are. Coaches' salaries, admin salaries, team travel. You can just see here, it's just going to be like, okay, we eliminate 20 million out of these budgets and stuff so we can make the money work. Like, it's going to be cost-cutting measures. And that's going to be in sports. That's going to be maybe in coaches' salaries too. Unless this new Big 12 deal.
I think you're going to these monster coaching staffs are going to go away.
For maybe like non-P2 schools for sure. And just like some of the luxury expenses in here, you're basically playing the game of just cutting this down from 95 to 75 million. Right. So that's really a real life situation of what it's going to look like.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Like
when you see the numbers, it should be pretty sobering, right?
So let me interrupt here really quick. Let's not get lost in the revenue sharing piece, because that's just a settlement amount. That's like a minimum payment. The money's going to come for these players through NIL and direct money payments from big boosters.
Okay,
we're already in a pay for play.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if K-State, I don't know K-State, you guys are talking about them. I don't know much about them, but I know what BYU, there are underwriters that are
Yeah.
spending big money. And it's just going to get bigger. BYU has a much broader audience than a lot of these other schools can do. I can't speak for Kansas State. Ute can talk about Utah, but I think at the end of the day, it's the individual donations that's going to make a difference, not whatever this profit sharing piece is.
Here's
So we're
like the
talking
idea,
private
though.
equity. Is that what we're talking about? Private equity partnering in
No.
there?
No, I'm not talking. No, I'm just talking about individuals
Yeah, okay.
like
So
you writing a
NIL
check.
stuff. Yeah, NIL stuff. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Go ahead.
Okay.
You were saying something.
Yeah, so the idea of any nonprofit organization like an athletic department is to self-sustain with the money that's coming in and not spending more than what's coming in. And a booster contribution isn't like dependable money. That's like a kind of a non-recurring event when you get a booster donation. So you can't make budgets based on that.
Well, no, I
So-
would say you would build like Nike has built an endowment just for the sports program.
If
I'm not
that's the
saying they're
case,
one-off
yeah.
payments. I'm not talking about one-off payments.
I hear what you're saying. I think that like for Oregon, that makes sense because they've just got Phil Knight and just so much capital right there and stuff. For most athletic departments like K-State, I just don't think they have those kind of benefactors to fund the program.
Right, I got you.
So you're going to get a lift though from the new media deal the Big 12 signed. It's going to be more money coming into the future, but you're going to be cost cutting. You're not going to be making as much like on the bottom line and profit as you were before, and you're going to be cutting expenses, and it's going to be cutting some sports. It's absolutely going to be happening.
Here's a comment from Rock and Rand, again, one of our contributors and also a member of the channel. He says, if you are Ohio State with way more athletes dividing 22 million and NIL aside, how much does that factor to a school with far less sports athletes willing to spend the same? Could be drastic on non-revenue teams. No, and I would ask that directly to Moen because
again, I don't think 22 million is just a generic number they've come up with.
Right.
It's a scaling percentage.
Yeah.
Ohio State's going to have a lot more money to distribute because they make more revenue off of their sports.
Right.
So, I mean, it's not going to affect Ohio State. You're right. It's going to affect every school that's not in Ohio State. That's, not in Ohio State, not in the SEC or the Big Ten. Those are the schools that are going to be most affected by it.
All right.
Boosters are going to flood the NILs to ensure their university has enough to compete. What boosters, though, Williams? I mean, to me, some schools, yeah. I don't think all of them would.
What comment are you looking at, Jason?
It was T.F. Williams.
I didn't catch it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Boosters are going to flood the NILs to ensure their university has enough to compete.
It's kind of wishful thinking, man. I think there's a lot of people that right now, I mean, look, you got to think about this too. Ticket prices are already going up as it is, and now all of a sudden, they're going to go up more. It's not going to stay the same. It's never going to stay the same. And then, and so how many people, let me just ask you this question. It's one thing for a booster to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to cut you a check right now and give you a big amount of money this year. But like you was just saying, that's not really reliable, especially if you go 4-8.
Of course not.
How much are they going to want? It's easy to get a bunch of people to put out $25 a month or whatever to the NIL.
Right.
If you're winning, if you're 9-3, then yeah, they're going to do that.
Agreed.
If you go 4-8, it's going to dry up real fast.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Let me add this up. We talked about this. I think you caught it right when you joined the show. Sorry. This is that comment from the president of Notre Dame, and he says he's asking for help from Congress. To save the great American institution of college sports, Congress must pass legislation that will preempt the current patchwork of state laws. I don't need to read the rest of it. Jason, do you think Congress is going to come in and save college football? Do you think in an election year, with how polarized our politics is, with everything else that's going on, Ukraine, Israel, all the domestic trouble,
there's all kinds of stuff going on.
How in the world, just because the Notre Dame president wants Congress to pass something, is there enough energy in the world to have the government bail you out?
Yeah, no, I don't see it.
Okay, because there are some people out there that are saying without a doubt it's going to happen for sure. I
Well,
don't
I
think
mean,
it is personally.
I don't know. I think that's wishful thinking to me. There's a lot of stuff going on that they don't get anything done. What are we talking about? It's not like Congress is doing their job in anything else. You expect them to
Right.
do something here?
No,
It's not. I
fair.
mean, they could take time away from the stuff they're already not doing and do it, I guess. But I mean, do I expect it? No, not really.
Carrie Go Knowles, one of our Florida State standbys. Thanks for being here, Carrie. $10 super chat says this is all Greg Sankey and Disney, aka ESPN's fault. Greedy sobs. Moen, what do you think about that?
Florida State talk there, buddy.
Moen.
Jason, I blame this all on you and
Let him
Oklahoma leaving with the SEC. It's all your fault.
I knew this
That's
was
the
coming
trigger
too.
point.
I almost didn't show up just because I knew it was coming.
All right, Moen, what do you think?
All right, this is one. It's all Notre Dame's fault, but
Let him cook now.
we gotta let him cook.
Let him cook. I said,
Let him cook. I love
Thank
it.
you, Carrie Go Knowles. Much appreciated. This is all Notre Dame's fault. It goes back well before Texas and Oklahoma left for the SEC. Blame the Dame.
Blame the Dame. I
For
love
what?
it.
For not switching into the Big Ten conference? Is that what we're blaming them for?
That's correct. If they
Yeah.
had just joined the Big Ten back in the 90s, we'd all be in a much better spot right now.
Laura says Moen needs a rant.
Yeah.
Moen, you taking a
Rant
drink?
on.
Georgia Tech,
No.
Syracuse. Everybody relax. We're an hour in. Stay with us. This is a really highbrow conversation. All right. So let's see here. If we've now figured out that the minimum payment is going to be whatever that percentage is, Title IX, 50%, whether it's participation or money. At the end of the day, money is now driving everything.
Well, it's never been money though. It's got to be participation. I mean, they're not giving the same amount of money to the women's basketball program.
You're
as
exactly
they
right.
are
They're
to
not.
the men's
Right
even,
now, they're
so,
not. That's true.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. I just don't know that the women are going to sit back and say it's about participation only. I think they're going to want money, and they deserve money.
Oh, I'm not saying they're not going to get paid.
Yeah.
I just don't. There's just going to be less of them. I think that's when it's up to the school to decide what sports can we afford.
Right.
Non-revenue sports. I mean, you're going to pay a bunch of girls that are in non-revenue sports. I'm not saying that I don't want to see women in sports because I think that it's important. I think that that's the biggest. But to me, those non-revenue sports, that's a way for them to get their college education. This is where we go back to where it used to really be, is that college education should be the important thing for a non-revenue sport. If you're going to play football, it's a little different thing, or even basketball.
Right.
No,
that's very
there's
fair.
no pro leagues for almost anything else. You know what I mean? It's
That's true. That's true.
That's where the legal lines are going to be drawn, though, guys, is like in the Title IX realm with the women's sports wanting a fair share and an equal cut of this money. Like, it might not shake out that way, but that's where the lawsuits are going to come.
sure.
And like, think about it this way: if it ends up being $20 million for like an A4 level school like K-State, if you looked at all the athletes in the whole athletic department, say that you were just going to split that money equally without taxes factored in, it'd be about 66 to 67,000 per student athlete, like without any tax implications before. So I don't know how it's going to shake out, but that's where the legal lines are going to go, and like especially for the women's sports.
But let me ask you this: aren't they allowed? Every school's allowed to opt out of this anyway, right? They don't have to say, "Hey, we're going to continue on doing this kind of stuff," because some places are flat out not going to be able to afford it.
Right.
There is conversation out there that because of the rules changing, the organization of everything changing because of this settlement, that there are going to be schools that if they can't meet the minimum 22 million, like Moen has talked about, if they can't, that would be the barrier to entry.
Right.
So if you're a school, middling in the ACC, we won't name them. At least I won't. You're getting money in, but you're not making any money, like really from participation. Your teams aren't winning, that type of stuff. How are they going to come about 22 million?
Yeah. No,
I don't know where that money comes from.
You have to be really sensitive about this too, because if you cut any women's sports, you have to cut the men's sports that are in conjunction with
For
that too,
participation.
to abide by Title
Yeah.
IX. You have to be so careful with that. Like, it's tippy toe stuff. I mean, it's
Yes,
It
it's
is.
true.
I mean, that's just how
Yeah.
like it legally is and stuff, and it makes sense.
Well, I
because you
think
wanna
that's
provide
where
an
you
equal
start looking.
opportunity.
Most of these power conference schools, right, are going to be the ones that are able to kind of hold up. Even Big 12. I mean, I would hope that they can, but it's like you said, they just took a $25 million haircut.
Yeah.
You know, so they can't spend 95 anymore. They have to spend 70.
Right.
And you know, and then whoever you're going to have to make up the rest of that. I don't see that really. This is bad for those kind of schools because in that, I mean, they were already kind of behind the 8 ball if you're a Kansas State. And I'm not just talking about Kansas State, but like really there's a lot of Big 12 schools that are like that. You've got schools that have more money, Oklahoma State probably being one of them. I would think that Colorado is another one of them. You guys, both of your schools are doing fairly well, but Arizona, what are they right now? They're in the tank, aren't they?
They're upside down. Most of the
Financially.
Pac-12 schools were upside down financially.
Right. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been run very
The
well.
conference was run so poorly.
So
I don't know where Utah is, but I know Arizona, Arizona State, Washington, Oregon. I think
Cal.
Oregon State's okay. Cal and UCLA are both upside down. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know where that ends up, but
Laura says the basketball and softball teams are making NIL money. Will they now? See, I think the NIL, that's where you could see that it's probably going to change now, because say you've got a good, a softball player that's, very recognizable, and somebody in Lubbock wants to have her as an influencer, that's what NIL is really supposed to be. Now, at the football level, it's probably not going to change, but I think that this is where the rubber meets the road on that stuff. I think that it's particularly when it comes to women's sports, and I'm not saying it's the right way to do it, but I do believe that you're probably looking at a situation where NIL is not just going to be a paycheck that you get because you came to school there anymore. I just don't.
What does this mean?
Happening.
Just kind of further this conversation along, like, yeah, it's not great for the Big 12 and the ACC, but it's horrible for the G5.
right.
Like
Right.
I'm looking here and it's pulled up Boise State's like financials, right? We just looked at K-State's. Boise State makes half as much as K-State. So they're making $50 million in total athletic department revenue. They spend $50 million. If we're talking $20 million, that's
Right.
basically 40% of everything. How do you do that? I mean, I don't know. I don't know how G5 does this.
It becomes the minor league. I think that they're going to be the ones that have to opt out. If they have a program at all, it's just going to be, they're not, I mean, if they get paid, it won't be much, but I don't really see that happening. I think we're about to see like a minor league system. It feels like to me.
So
I mean, again, I think there's a lot to work at. This is why I said, I think there's still so much yet to come that we don't really know.
let me jump on top of that and extend it. DP's comment here, he's a member, says there are some state schools getting a free ride from schools like FSU and Clemson.
Right.
It is time for some accountability. These schools have had decades to get it together. You guys know the schools that he's talking about there. It's extremely difficult to see how some of these schools can stick around just to participate.
Right.
Very, very difficult for me to project how they could do that. So what's the number? Is it 40 schools? Is it 50? Is it 60? How many schools you guys think? Regardless of
maxes out at 45 or 50, I would think.
I think 54, 56, 60.
I mean, you guys know those numbers a lot better than I do because y'all are studying it. But what do you think? What do you guys think of looking at your numbers?
Yeah, I'm curious. So let's think about this too. If you're Boise State, if you can opt out, right? You have the opportunity to opt out. That's my understanding. What does that look like? What does that mean? Like, so if a school opts out, they're not paying $20 million, but what's the ramifications? I'm trying to get my head around the ramifications for opting out. Do you know, Moan, by chance?
Well, the ramifications are you're not going to get players that want to come to you right away. I mean,
but are they going to still be able to play Division I football?
They'll still be able to play, but I mean, who is it? Really Boise State is not going to be the Boise State of old.
Right.
It's not.
You was just asking a question for those schools that can't make that. Are they basically a subdivision now?
Yeah, they're not even minor league. I think they're like AAA league at that point. because I think you're probably going to end up with 64 to 70 schools
Yeah.
that'll opt in, and that's
You
going to
think that
take
many
most.
will?
Yeah,
that?
I think that many will. I think that many will.
There's going to be
How do
enough
you-
people with egos. There's going to be enough people with egos at their schools that are going to fund them so that their alma mater will stay big. Division I. I can almost guarantee that's going to happen.
Who
So
could
if you
afford
opt out,
moving them?
what changes if you opt out? So you can't pay NIL at the school level through your media rights, but like, how does that cover you from the house settlement going forward if you opt out? And that's where I'm unclear.
It doesn't. That house
I don't
settlement
think-
has to be paid every year.
Yeah, I don't
For
know what
10
they're going
years
to do.
at 2.77 billion or whatever it is.
Right,
So
but it's
10-year
not.
payout.
It's not 22 million.
No. I'm talking about the 22 million or 20. It's 22% of revenue coming in. I don't think that has anything to do with that 2.7 billion.
Right.
From what
Let
I
me-
can tell, that's not.
Let me go back to it. You guys keep talking. Go ahead. I'm going to go
Yeah,
back
I
to the
think
Ross
it's-
Dellinger article and read that. Give me a
I
second.
believe that it's a separate thing altogether, which is why you had the Pac-12 come back together, because they have to pay off those guys from that were in the Pac-12 at that time, and it goes back what 6 year to 2016 is what I read last night.
Yeah, about 10 years.
It goes
of the
back to
Abandon case.
2016. Yeah.
Right. So
Through
when
20
they've been doing NIL now for what 3,
since
4 years
since
Oh,
22.
okay, so this will be year 3. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I at least in this Ross Dellinger set of tweets, I don't see the answer that says, regardless of the percentage, and Jason's saying 22. I trust you,
Sure.
Jason. Whether that is amount that it's a like a participation fee,
Right.
or you're out. And if you're out, then this is my question. If let's just assume you do opt out, like Moen mentioned, now all of a sudden, does that lower the chance that a Utah would be willing to play Boise State? Because
Great
if
question.
if they're in a subdivision, literally it's like playing, it's like a Big Ten school playing a MAC school right now. It would go even lower than that.
So
What's
I will
your
only
incentive?
play you if you opt in.
Right.
Words,
That's
right?
is
Like,
it a
if you
club
opt in-
now? That's what I'm thinking.
Exactly. I mean,
Wait,
I don't.
okay, ask this
see
question
anywhere where
again.
that's been
So I
fine.
think I missed it. I was trying to look up that story from last night.
So if you're in the division that is opted in,
Hmm.
why in the world would you play anybody that's not in that group, knowing they're not going to make as much money? There's no TV money to follow it up, and there's a huge disparity in the skill level in the schools, because there will be if that happens.
I think if they're going to do it, they would do it just to recruit, because I think
Well,
it does
maybe.
become a farm system at that point.
Maybe, but what's the incentive to play those schools?
You're going to have to cough up cash to do it. I don't know. That's the only incentive, is to keep that alive at that level. Here's the risk that you're running by not doing it, is that right now college football is widely loved. If you cut it down to 50 schools, let's say it's 50 or even 60, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
You cut it down to 60 schools, you piss off a lot of people in this country.
Yeah, more than half.
I don't know about half, but because I think even people that went to certain schools or whatever don't necessarily root for that school. I don't think you have to be an alumni to be a fan.
Well, right now, all I'm saying is right now there's 131 schools. If you take 64,
I understand.
that's okay.
Right.
Just saying
But
that's more
how
than
many
half.
of those 131 schools have a shot at the college football championship anyway, for it being realistic?
Well, in their locker rooms, they're telling each other they can do it.
Bummer, that's not what I asked you. How many of them have a realistic shot? If they're out of the group of 5, they don't have one anyway, right?
Yeah, it would be very difficult. Yes.
Right. If you're not, and I think it's difficult for the ACC and the Big 12. I think if you're going to do it, you better do it now before you get so much in the 2-3 years down the line of being $50-60 million behind is not going to help anybody. And this is where I think it sucks. But I think that the risk that they're running by doing this stuff is to alienate a large percentage of the college football watching country, because they don't like it that it's now it's a professional football. It's professional or semi-pro at least. I I don't know. I think that this is that where you kind of turn into what am I looking for? This is kind of that crossroads here that I don't know if you did a deal with the devil or what, because here's the thing, you go into private equity to keep up.
Yeah,
and how long do you have that? I mean, how long if you're not a winner and soon and to where you can get invited into one of the big conferences? That's the other question is how long does it stay at even 3 conferences? Does it go to 2 or is it how's that even going to work? So that's where I say there's so many questions still in the air. Revenue share wasn't just a fix for everything.
Well, let's read it, Jason. It's right here.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Let me post the link. I post the link so everybody can get that. It's a Yahoo Sports article. Ross Dellinger, right? Do I have that right? Ross Dellinger. Right. Let me just read it right here. Jason, this will answer your question. The short answer is 22% of their average athletic department revenue, or about 21 to 22 million. That's assuming 100 million is your revenue.
So K-State's right here.
Okay. The longer answer, attorneys and commissioners agreed to use an average of power conference revenue streams as a sort of formula, I like that sort of, to determine an annual revenue sharing limit. They took 3 of the 4 most significant revenue streams in the athletic department, TV contracts, ticket sales, sponsorships, donations not included, to generate an average of 69 schools. So they averaged, I think that's all of them plus SMU and Notre Dame. Right. That average, according to the documents on Yahoo Sports, is around 100 million. We knew that because Ute's been talking about that for months. What's 22% of 100 million? That's where you get to the 22 million. Yeah. But that figure has not been finalized for the 2025 year when it takes effect. That figure, once set, will fluctuate as it includes an escalator and then da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So 4%, I think, is the escalator that they put in right now. So that's an average number. If you're Ohio State, that number is going to be wildly different.
Yes.
It's going to be crazy different.
Because it's going to be more like 125 million for Ohio State.
Something.
Well, I say that. I don't know what that number is, but I mean, just from the television deal for college football, it's going to be 100 million. What were they? And what do you make? Okay, so Mo, what is the average gate at a game at the shoot?
Considering I'm an alumni and I can't afford tickets to it, yeah, it's huge.
Right, so it's like $4 or $5 million a game,
probably at least, and that's not including the sponsorships. They've got sponsorships.
Correct.
Nationwide Insurance is a big sponsor of theirs.
Right here it says in the article, Moen, and you can follow this up with your comments. Moen's just talking about what the value is. A $20 million price tag for Ohio State is only 8% of its budget. Yeah. $20 million for Arkansas is 13%. So averages again, guys. Averages.
Yeah, and it's right. That next paragraph said how they landed on 22% is not exactly known.
Yeah, a theory does exist, it says.
So what we're saying, let's tie this back to Boise State. So Boise State's only going to be paying 20 to 23% of its own revenues, right? It's not paying $20 million. If they're making $50 million, it's going to be $12 million, $13 million.
Right.
Okay. Well, they can actually compete then, right? That kind of ties that up a little bit more understanding across the board. So it's not a flat $22 million number for everybody. It's just prorated based on your own situation for your school.
Okay. Well, that's good. I mean, that's good news for K-States of the world for sure. Because if you're now it's instead of if your operating expenses are still 95 million, but now that you're paying out X amount or what, I don't know how it's going to really work out, but I think that's good to know. You have to find you can't, there's no way that even if you do a private equity deal, which is risky because somebody brought it up on my show last night talking about Red Lobster. That's kind of what happened to Red Lobster. You had somebody come in and buy up all their bought up all their property and then just started charging them a bunch of freaking rent. Yeah, and they couldn't afford it anymore. And that's why they all went out of business. It's kind of what happens with private equity. They come in, they strip it, they sell it.
and they take 20 to 25%
Correct.
for
Yeah.
the right to do it. So I had a numbers guy on with me last night, Bill Farley, and he breaks it down to the penny and says that private equity is a deal with the devil and it's only short term.
100%.
It's only and Ute knows that too because
It's like
they've
going
been
to a loan
talking.
shark.
So
Yeah, it's like
it's a
leg
payday
breaker.
loan to
Absolutely.
get you up, but it's not sustainable, right?
No.
Yeah, it's a short-term get. Like if you're in debt for one particular thing, private equity, pay it off, you pay them a fee, you move along. You can't use it to subsidize your program for years and decades. It's not how it works.
No
It's
way.
a time loan, guys. That's really what
Right.
it is. That's what we're talking
Right.
about with the
High
private
interest and
capital.
Yes, that's absolutely true. RT, another member says, I believe 20 million was the minimum for revenue sharing. The G5's portion of the House settlement is only 600,000 per. So that answers your question,
Yeah.
Ute,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, so that's portion of it. But then going forward and stuff, they're going to have to pay again, like what the 20 to 23% still, right?
Right. That's exactly right. Yeah. And that's kind of where I'm coming back to with Boise State. If you're University of Washington and you know you have to pay a minimum of $22 million just to be in the club, right? We're going to call Division I the club. Why would you want to play somebody that only had to pay 600,000? I don't see a reason. I love Boise State. You know, we're from this area. I think Boise
Right.
State's success has been great the last 25 years.
How many people watch them every
That's
week?
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So where does
You're
the money come from?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think we're going to get to a point. Moen says every league and team needs games that they are just going to walk in and win.
I think that's the other thing too.
It's a stat pad.
I mean, somebody's got to lose.
But your money has to be paid back. So if you're going to make a lot less money to play a money game, in other words, you're paying somebody to be on the
But
field
how much is it going to be
to get a win?
But okay, so
what is it worth on your 11-1 record?
Hold on.
Wouldn't you rather play 11-1 but lose that one game to a power conference team rather than play Boise State that gives you literally nothing except for an auto win?
Well, I think that you would rather do that, but I also think that, like, when you look at the SEC, people bitch about it all the time. They talked about it forever that, you know, oh, you've got that late G5 or FCS team that you play late in the year every year.
Yes.
People hate it. They do it anyway, but and for competitive reasons and stuff like that, they have a tough enough league that they can afford to do that. It's not going to hurt them, especially now that you have the playoff has expanded. So it's even less of a worry at this point that, you know, if you're in the Big Ten or the SEC and you have 2 and possibly even 3 losses, you're going to be in the playoff.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. Somebody needs to convince me why a BYU or a Utah wants to play a Boise State. I can't see the upside.
So you're saying because if you lose to them, then you're really screwed.
Yeah. I would much rather lose to a Kansas State. I would much rather lose to a Missouri.
What's the chances of you losing to Boise State?
Pretty good.
2-3 years down the line when they're not making any money.
I don't know.
Bomber, you're not going to like to hear this, but now you, for the first time, understand why Utah didn't want to play BYU.
No, what do you mean? You're telling me? I knew that. That's not.
But you never really understood it till now. Like
that's absolutely not true.
What's the point of going?
There's no reason.
What's the point of playing Boise
Your
State?
contention isn't true. The minute they left,
that's exactly what it was for Ute fans.
Listen
to me. BYU is worthless.
Listen to me. What I'm saying is, I always knew that was the reality. Don't say I didn't know. Now you know. I've known all along.
Why do you think now?
I knew before.
Listen.
Don't.
Guys.
I'm just saying. Don't tell me what I knew 12 years ago. Okay. I know what Utah thought. Why do you think BYU hated it? BYU people aren't stupid. Of course, we knew the reason.
You knew, but now you really
know. Okay,
because you're in that same position.
Stop.
The Holy War started today.
No, it started decades and decades ago, and I just don't like the contention that you're saying this is new and I'm dawning on it. Okay, just drop that part. Don't say you know. Don't talk about me. Okay.
Okay. Well, now
I'm
Boise State is
very clearly to the world. Don't say bomber. I don't care what you say about anybody else.
BYU fans, now you guys know what Utah's shoes were like when BYU was at Indy and we didn't want to play you because if we lost.
Does that make you feel better? Does that make you feel better you said that?
Yeah, it does actually.
Okay, all right, great. I'm glad you're having a great night being able to stomp on somebody that had no control over their own destiny. Go ahead. If that makes you feel better. I'm glad
Let's
it
move
does.
on.
Have a great weekend. Are we done?
Yeah, we're done.
No,
Okay.
are we not? Are we
All
done
right.
talking?
No, I just don't
No, we're
want to
not
talk
done
about this
talking.
anymore.
All right.
All right, let's talk. Let's get some comments that have nothing to do with us. How about that? RT. Oh no, we already did that one. I apologize. Let's see. Did we see this one? TF Williams, a member, says, I'm trying to figure out how you differentiate yourself for the players you are wanting to get and do it for the sports which can maximize the effort. Who can answer
I'm
that?
not sure I understand the question.
Do you know what that means, Moen? It was flagged, so I assumed somebody. I didn't flag
Saying
it.
how do you differentiate yourself as he's meaning your institution for the players you were wanting to get and do it for the sports which can maximize the effort. So, for example, for Syracuse
and Georgia Tech? Is that
for
who you mean?
Syracuse in particular, you're going to spend money on basketball and promote the fact that you just did a $117 million renovation on the former Carrier Dome and how it holds the record for the biggest NCAA basketball event in history. I think I got that right.
Okay.
Yeah,
I really didn't understand it. So
I think it's still, well, it's going to come down to here's the thing. There's a small percentage, right, of what the hell is this?
I don't know. It's going crazy on the soundboard.
I'm not touching anything.
I have nothing in my background. My phone's muted. It has to be something you're doing,
on my
Moen.
phone. I don't know what it is.
All right, we're gonna drop that one. Let's move right along.
That's scary.
DP says nosebleeds seats at Clemson are $250 a
Expensive.
piece.
Yeah,
I bet you at Ohio State they're probably triple that.
they're not triple that, but it's probably to get in the upper. You're probably talking about $4 bills. $4 bills a ticket.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just to sit in the nosebleed seats?
Yeah, but the nice thing is you get student tickets. You can flip them to general admission. So a lot of that money's going to students to pay for their beer.
All right. Okay. I can take that.
So as far as I know the average Oklahoma ticket's been somewhere in the range of about $200, it seems like. So, but if you were to buy a season, you buy the season ticket package or whatever for OU, which is just the home games, obviously. I think, but that doesn't include the Red River. And I think it's for two, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $3,000, I think. And we're talking 6 games. And actually this year it's 5 games for Oklahoma. You play a freaking you play the Red River game, which is always on a neutral site. It's at the Cotton Bowl every year. So that's how it is. And that's the hard part. And that you've heard Kirby Smart complaining about that with the Florida deal because they don't allow them to recruit at that game. So they don't let anybody bring recruits in for that game, which is, I don't know why they don't do that.
Recruits normally are on the field.
I know why they won't do
games.
that because Georgia kicks the shit out of Florida every year. Why would you want a bunch of Florida kids come and watch Georgia kick crap?
All right, let's
let's
get to some fun comments here. This is getting spicy. We got a lot of comments.
We got some spiciness.
We did. Friday night
This is real, y'all. This is real BYU and Utah stuff.
Laura,
sure is.
Go to your rooms. I just want to identify and take ownership for all these. Conundrum says BYU getting schooled. Let's see where I had a couple. Rivals are great. That's absolutely true. Ute and I love each other. That's not a problem. Let's see. Here's another one. Two Master says elbows flying, spaghetti plate hit the wall. Yeah? It's like Thanksgiving dinner, and we're talking politics. Yeah, that's true. Let's see here. None says take it easy, guys. Come on. Don't get upset.
And that's a Michigan guy. That's a Michigan guy. When a Michigan guy has to come in the room and tell you
the Michigan guy, the voice of reason.
Yeah,
one off the rails, folks.
Here's a good one. C. John says, "Aha, BYU drama. So state university can request in-state governance support. but have no idea what the private Big 12 ACC university will do to bridge the funding gap. What do you guys think?
That's true.
I don't know that there's anything you can do, frankly.
There's nothing. It's a private school. They don't have to tell you shit.
Well, that's true.
They don't have to tell you anything. You know what they're going to get as far as from the conferences and stuff like that. And
right.
That's deal.
Yeah.
But you don't know what they're getting from the rest. You know, their revenue is completely private.
Yep, absolutely true. All right, Jason, we're going to let you go. We're coming up on Q&A to end the show. Tell everybody what you do, what your show's all about, and how they can find you, please.
We've got a few. So we do, obviously I do Hall of Fame college football with Jason and the coach. That's a kind of a national, we talk about a little bit of everything. A lot of SEC stuff, a little bit of Notre Dame, a lot of Oklahoma. But we're kind of doing a lot more national on that show particularly. And then I've kind of added another channel to where we just do more Sooner stuff. That way, you know, for the algorithm's sake or whatever. But a lot of things coming up. You know, we're looking forward to the season. Obviously, we're under 100 days. So till the start of this thing, I hope that this is it ends up being, I don't know that we've really worked a whole lot of stuff out as far as revenue share is concerned. I think there's a lot left to come. So we're going to be doing a lot of different things coming up for the, you know, starting of the season and everything like that. But we're excited about it. You know, it's the first year for Oklahoma and Texas in the SEC. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be a lot of fun in the Big 12 though too. You know, with adding even more schools. You know, now you've got the new 4 Pac-12 schools. So I think I've been saying a lot of. I was on Ty's show the other day Around the Table Sports, and they were like, who's going to win the Big 12? And I was like, there's at least 10 schools that theoretically could do it. And by the time I started writing them down, there's really like 12. There really is. I mean, some got better shots than others. Okie Light's not going to win it. But we got further way down there. And I mean, I wasn't sure that I hadn't even started with Texas Tech yet. And I was like, I think they could have just been a year off on everybody kind of predicting them to make a run at it. You know, because they definitely got a better quarterback now. Anyway,
Utah's loaded. That's a different
Utah's
show.
Definitely loaded, but a lot of that's going to depend on Cam Rising.
It is, and his health. Yep.
So, I mean, there's a lot of things like, you know, if Kansas has a healthy Jalen Daniels, good luck. Because
he can run.
That dude's a stud, straight stud. It's a lot of fun. We're going to cover a lot of it. Can't wait. I'm excited, man. I cannot freaking wait till we start talking about like actual football. So
yeah, we're getting sort of tired on this. Believe me, we would like to talk some football too. So
talking season turns into
does.
Yeah. Well, you got Bomber and freaking Ute screaming at each other when talking season. Look at this.
Well, to be fair, you didn't yell. That was me. So I want to be very fair. You didn't say anything that got me with a voice. So. Jason, thanks for being here. We really appreciate it. Tell Coach we said hi.
Yep. Take care, Jason.
We'll go from there, okay?
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it.
All right. Have a good one.
See you later. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I think that's the second time Jason's been on, and we got into a Holy War thing.
I think so, too.
Yeah, I think he stirs something up. We got a super chat. Tony Lawson, $2 says, Wild Ute, does USF fit in the future of the Big 12?
It does not. Tough Tony. The USF would fit maybe if UCF were ever to leave the Big 12, but I just don't see USF bringing enough financial value for it to make sense media rights wise to bring into the Big 12. The Big 12's philosophy is going to be different than a dilapidated or weakened ACC, because the Big 12 is just strictly looking to increase its media rights value and its money to its members, where the ACC is probably going to have more of a blend of that and plus an academic look. So if the ACC loses 2 Florida schools in Miami and FSU, I certainly see them going after USF because they're an academic fit. They're AAU based, and it just seems like a really good fit for the ACC. For the Big 12, not so much.
What do you think, Moen?
Boy, USF's kind of a conundrum because I don't think that they fit in the future ACC. I think better than they fit in the future Big 12.
Okay. I just don't. USF is just, they're building a stadium. I just think they're years away. That's all I would say.
I just think UCF would probably block them.
You think?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just don't know really what they bring to the Big 12 at the end of the day, because Big 12 is really looking for eyeballs, right, and brands, and USF just isn't that. They bring market and academics,
right,
and that's just not really what the Big 12 needs at this moment.
But one thing we know about realignment is it never sleeps, and nothing is off the board. So USF's investing, they're impressing people. There's a lot of important people that have said they've made great strides. There's a little bit needs to take some more time. Hopefully it's not all settled before they can get into a power conference, though, because Florida is loaded, obviously. All right, so we're going to jump right into the last thing of the day, and it's our world famous Q&A. I hope everybody's prepared because we're going to go rapid fire. If you're a member, we defer to those comments first. Super chats obviously carry the day. If you put a super chat in there, your comment will be read and we'll discuss it. Other than that, let's jump into this. Actually, Moen, you want to tell everybody about membership really quick before we move on?
Sure. If you guys want to leave a super chat, become a member, gift a membership, you can hit the cash icon down at the bottom of the chat window. It gives you all those options. It's fun. It gives us money. It keeps me in good sunglasses. It keeps me in fine liquors. It keeps me in brown liquors. So
I got you. I got you. Well, a little Georgia Tech, a little Syracuse, and let's get into this world famous Q&A. We got a super chat here from Kerry Go Knowles, $5, also a member. We've learned that shit rolls downhill. Got me to cuss there.
You got me to cuss. Let's get into you.
That's a winner.
Let him cook.
Let him cook. I cussed. I admit it. I don't do it very often.
Let him cook.
Let him cuss now. Let him cuss. Let him cuss.
All right, here we go. Let's start at the top. Buckshot Kid, another member, says, hit the like button. Everybody hit the like button. It's free.
Do it.
Let us know how we're doing. Leave a comment or question. Rock Chalk says, can I go to college and get paid for it too?
You can play football.
Right.
You can. Water polo maybe might get $5 or something. I don't know. It's going to be tough, Rock Chalk. Timothy Green says, time flies when you're having fun, folks. It does fly. I can't believe it's already 6:30 or 8:30 Eastern. That time just flies by. Let's see here. Illini Ted, another member, says, Moen is spinning the tunes tonight. All right, Moen, give us a few hits. Let's go back to back to back.
I couldn't care less about the team struggling.
One more. Get one more. Hey, do you have my OOO queued up? Can you put that in there?
I haven't cut yours yet.
Oh, okay. All right.
Let the Godfather O.
Absolutely. Greg's better anyway. Rock and Rant says, happy Memorial Day weekend to everybody. Indeed, happy Memorial weekend to everybody. If you know a veteran or you know a policeman or a fireman, give them a pat on the back, send them a text, let them know you appreciate them. Those people have been in a position that they are to have us be here to be able to do this show, and we very much appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate it, Rock. He says, driving home with the show in the background, getting ready to enjoy a Georgia Tech, Syracuse, and at least 4 other institutions this weekend for Realignment 6-pack.
Realignment 6-pack, baby.
I like that. Somebody needs to write that down. Realignment 6-pack. That's a good term. I like it, Rock. Thank you. Kerry Go Knowles at the beginning said, what's up, peeps? Glad to have you here, Kerry. TF has also checked in. Hello, everyone. FSU fans, how much would you pay to get out?
$1 billion?
Yeah, I think so.
It sounds like it's going to be over 300 million to me. Sounds like I'm kind of aligning with what Moen's going to say here, like 375, 350-ish, but the Knowles maybe more, which is crazy because prior estimates were around 150.
You know what the ACC is going to say?
What is that?
Let him cook.
Tell them to bring me my money.
I can't believe that. How are you going to pay the ACC that much money? Like $500 million, the ACC. Man.
Gotta invest in yourself. You got to believe in yourself. Invest in yourself.
Man. Really quick, I'm going to add this to the stage. This is something I was hoping we'd get to, but there's a good segue here about how things are being paid and who's opting in and who's not. A president of Local 560, which is in charge of the Dartmouth players. They've created a union. They say to the NCAA settlement, with this settlement, the NCAA continues to do everything it can to avoid free market competition, which is most appropriate in this case. The resolution is not a special exemption or more congressional regulation that further undermines labor standards, but instead, NCAA member universities must follow the same antitrust labor laws as everyone else. So the union has spoken. They're saying everybody needs to get on board and affiliate with themselves so they have collective bargaining. Where are we going to go with collective bargaining, guys?
I hope we get there soon. I mean, I think collective bargaining is the next shoe to drop. I think it's much needed for the health of the game. Limit transfers, more compensation certainty. I think that it makes so much sense now after this House settlement just to go do that. We're so close to it anyway. Let's just make sure things are buttoned up, and that kind of gives us the ability just to clean things up a little bit with collective bargaining.
Moen, you want to add anything to that?
No, I think Butte was pretty spot on.
I agree. I'm in the same way. Eventually, something needs to be settled somehow.
We ran a poll. Hold on.
Oh, yeah. What was the poll? Thank you.
Let's end the poll.
Let's end the poll. Where are we at?
300 or more, 57%. 150 less, 35%. 400 to 1 trillion was 700.
1 trillion.
You put a trillion.
They should have just said SMU. The 400 to SMU is what you should have put.
So yeah, 300 or more.
That is crazy. Morris Simmons says no more than 300. So
no more than 300.
Let's see here. Kay says looks like around 300 to 351 million. Okay.
If it's less than 300, I'm not sure the ACC is going to do it. The survival's depending on it based on our numbers. Around 300 million is what it takes. Right. So it needs to be above 300 million or the ACC is in trouble. So that's a big threshold point, 300 million right there.
I would agree with that 100%. Daniel Gygax, another member, says FSU knows every year there in the ACC, it's 45 million per year less than the SEC and the Big Ten. That's the hurry. Speaking to Moen's rush for Florida State to want to settle. Time is money. We're not, at least I recognize that. All I'm saying is that I don't think it's going to be different now for 8 months from now. I think the same dollar amount would exist and the time would already be ticking. So that's the part I don't get. I don't know why they don't wait and let the courts settle some of this stuff. They can always write a $560 million check. Why not wait to have it lowered by a court? That's my contention. Anyway, I don't know. Do you agree with that, Ute, or are you more on Moen's?
I think that is worth both considerations, honestly. Like, it just depends on really how close those numbers are. Like, I think if it's like $80 million per year, right, man, that's tough to eat and stuff. Just say, okay, we're going to pay $80 million per year more. So 160 million more to get out 2 years early. I don't know if the math works out too well that way. Honestly, it just seems a little high, but there's a lot of factors in consideration. So it's close. Either
way, somebody's going to be right. At some point, somebody's going to be right.
Someone's got to have to make a decision, right?
That's
really,
true.
At the end of the day, someone's got to make a call on that.
Absolutely true. Devil Frog, another member, an OG member, says, I think it's more than safe to assume that 6 to 8 teams leave the ACC at least. So that's a conversation we haven't had in several weeks. ACC survival guide. How many teams leave when Florida State and Clemson leave, guys?
What do you think about that, Moen?
2 more.
2 more. What do you think, you?
I still think it's going to be an absolute bloodbath in the ACC. I think that you're going to get the 4. So you're going to Miami and UNC are going to join Clemson and FSU, and then you're going to lose 4 more to the Big 12. So I'm saying 8. So I'm more with Devil Frog right here on the high end, 8. I think 4 go to the Big 12 at the end of the day. I think it's the likely candidates. We've broken those out before, and I just don't think it's going to be enough there for long-term certainty to stay. And I don't think the settlement amount is going to be significant enough to make it. I don't know. I guess like at the end of the day, that's how it kind of shakes out. I'm thinking the settlement amount is going to be less than 400, around the 300 million mark. And it's just so close math wise and stuff to say, I just can't be certain of like future growth in this conference. I got to get out of it. So 8 teams.
8 teams leave. Moen, what do you think?
2. I think 2 more teams on top of Florida State.
Wolfpack backpack?
Well, no. I think if you're going this route where they're going to settle for this much money, I don't think the Wolfpack I don't think the backpack can raise that kind of money.
Very
but
fair.
I think North Carolina can. And that's going to that's what's going to separate the backpack.
That is the question, isn't it? Is what that amount needs to be for North
right.
Carolina State.
If it's 300 million, I don't think North Carolina State can afford that.
What about this though, Mo? And what if this scenario happens? I do agree a lot, like in the extent that you're saying, like, I don't think North Carolina State can pay the same amount as FSU. I'm with you on that. But what happens if FSU pays that amount, Clemson pays that amount, and then all of a sudden the contract gets restructured with ESPN? So you're under different circumstances with a lower dollar contract now. And then more litigation starts with an NC State and UNC at a lower contract amount. So obviously the baseline before with the prior contract's been renegotiated down. I think you escape for less.
I think it's going to be tough to pull that off. I think the ACC is probably going to rework things after this exit to make it even more expensive for any school. And I think, I think at that point when Florida State, whatever that number that they come up with, that's the number that Clemson and Florida State are going to pay. Right. Who else is going to be able to pay that number? The University of North Carolina, the University of Miami. Those are the only 2 schools I see in the ACC. SMU could pay that number theoretically, but nobody wants SMU. So North Carolina and Miami would be the only other 2 I could see paying that number.
So in my opinion, I definitely think Clemson and Florida State are leaving. I still vote for both of them to the Big Ten, but we'll see. If Clemson doesn't go to the Big Ten, I don't think they go to the SEC. We talked about that so much. I don't care about that anymore. It's what happens to the ACC afterward. Listening to Bill Farley yesterday, and if you didn't watch the show last night, the Consigliere show, he basically came in and said for North Carolina to blow up the ACC, they would be walking away with tens of millions of dollars in tax revenue because of everything that's now ACC driven within the state of North Carolina. The sales tax is 5%. They would lose tens of millions of dollars. So the media dollar amount is out here. It reminded me about what they talked about with the Pac-12. They said it's not about the money for the media amount. It's about what access they have. Are they enough to compete with the SEC and the Big Ten? And they determined they couldn't. But the conversation is the exact same. The money itself doesn't solve anything. It's what happens after that I think makes the biggest difference.
I guess the crux is Miami. Like, speaking of that, like, I could understand the points and everything. I think it's a great point. But like, why in the world, if you're Miami, you're going to sit back and not leave?
I think Miami's gone. I think
and so if Miami gone, like, you're hemorrhaging 3, like, that's your top 3 big money makers as far as like eyeballs and stuff.
Right.
Like, how much can you hemorrhage before it's just done? I think
what I'm saying is according to Bill, North Carolina would keep the ACC around even if it's at a lower rate, because in state they would still be making more money.
Man, that's if you happen to lose Miami, FSU, and Clemson, just based on you've lost 40% of your TV viewership.
Right.
The ACC network is also a payout that comes in and factors into your total compensation. All of a sudden you're losing, you maybe add a USF or something, but like you're going to be losing value there too.
Sure.
Like your media valuations, I mean, it's just going to be so much less. It's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine that, like, and I guess the settlement money can like kind of boost you up until 2036, but then it's done after 2036. Like, it's just a ticking time bomb because it's just not sustainable in the very long term if you lose those 3 brands.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead and finish.
Go ahead. Yeah,
I was just going to say, for me, it's the perception thing. Yeah. They could have kept the Pac-12 around, but it would have been treated like a redheaded stepchild, even to the Big 12. And that's what's going to happen to the ACC. So North Carolina, the UNC graduates that maybe aren't in charge of the board of trustees, they say it's all NC State people. But if you're a UNC grad, regardless of the tax revenue coming to your state and all the financial impacts, are you wanting to play in a conference that is minus your best and brightest? You'll be the top dog in a conference that is several steps below the Big 12. That perception thing is real. People, they want to be considered Big 10 SEC worthy, right?
Yes.
In my opinion, the perception thing is going to override the money.
You just nailed it, because this reminds so much of the Pac-12 when USC and UCLA left.
Right.
Remember, like how Oregon and Washington were kind of in, yeah, we're going to look at this deal and stuff, but really they were backdooring the Big Ten the whole time.
Exactly.
They were intending on agreeing to a long-term contract because they knew this thing was house sooner or later. It was not a long-term fit anymore. I think the same thing with the other ACC schools. And guess what? Duke and Wake Forest, they ain't going nowhere. So those ACC tournaments, whatever those agreements are, they can still hold tournaments for a new conference or maybe like a watered down ACC there still. Those teams aren't going to likely get into the Power 3, the A3 at that time when the ACC falls. So I think it's more like a Pac-12 scenario. If you lose the Super Ends, you're done. You're done, guys.
Moen?
Yeah, it's ego. Some of it is ego. I mean,
sure.
You want to be the best team, and you want to be the biggest fish in a small pond, or do you want to play in the ocean? So,
right.
I think UNC wants to play in the ocean. I think they think their brand is big enough to do that. So, I think they would pay that $350 million to get out the door.
And that's why I don't think
they'd have any trouble raising that.
And that's why I think, we've joked about the Wolfpack backpack for a while. It was on and then it was off and then it was back on again. Looking at it from the third party, having already gone through it for a year and a half in the Pac-12, I know they say it's not the exact same thing, but the ACC and the Pac-12, once you lose those top brands, just like the Big 12, unfortunately, you're the last one to do it. There's nobody else to backfill you. So it's at that point, I don't see how they do. Now, I agree with what Moen says from a financial standpoint. I just think from a perception standpoint, if you're a UNC grad, do you want to be, yay, we're king of the hill of the ACC that doesn't have anybody in it? Or, yeah, we finished 6th in the Big 10. It's hard for me to imagine a point where they would be okay with being the big fish in the little pond. I just don't. Their ego might be driving it. Their politics might be saying that, but I think that is so short-sighted.
You know what? Okay, this is a relevant point. I don't want to steal Dr. S's luster here for the model he's built and everything. I'm going to let him.
Have you guys been talking about this?
We've been talking about this topic, and you know what? I can't say too much because I want him to tell that story and stuff through Wilder University. He deserves the credit. One thing I picked up today, looking at the information, is that as far as performance, expected performance of TV viewership in the ACC actually lags behind the Big 12 in expected performance. But really, you've got two brands that perform at the par level, meaning like one of the flat level you'd expect for a time slot or greater, and that is Florida State and Clemson. North Carolina State way underperform what you'd expect for viewership in the time slot and with like a similar ranking for another team, based on those brands, viewership wise and stuff. And if you apply that over to a renegotiated media deal, it's going to be such a bloodbath on like how many folks are going to be watching your game. So, I mean, really is relevant. It's hard to see it survive. It really is.
We're not changing the subject, but we want to get to something that just happened. Moen, what's this?
Carrie's cooking tonight, buddy.
Carrie,
let him cook.
Good. Yes.
Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said, let him cook.
Carrie Go Knowles has gifted 10 memberships to the College Football Mafia family. We got some new family members tonight. Tumasta, North End Zone U, Suzanne Bijour. I apologize if I messed that name up. Rory McNamara, MGC Sooner, P Digits, Joe Zielinski, Hawkin 2, Congo, and Preston from Greenboro. Make sure you thank Carrie Go Knowles in the chat for giving you those memberships. and we thank him very much here. That makes him a winner.
Winner.
That is legit.
Thank you, Jerry.
legitness. Yeah, it was. Huh?
Thank you so much, Carrie. Really appreciate it. I'm open to all that. Really quick, Ute, what do we got in Wild Ute University right now?
Yeah, for sure. We've got the most recent video we put out there, Hokie Horror. Yeah, Virginia Tech. They seem like a no-brainer as far as a fit in a different conference, like based on the brand. Michael Vick, Frank Beamer, Enter Sandman, right? Like Virginia Tech should be a strong ad for any of like the P2, maybe like the Big 12 conferences. Watch this video. Check it out. It's shocking. It's surprising how weak the data thinks Virginia Tech's basically resume is as far as a realignment candidate. And really, it is what it is. If you just got one of those memberships, check that video out. We also have an NC State video, a Notre Dame, how they fit into the Big Ten. We make realignment a science here on College Football Mafia. That's what we do. We're data dorks and everything. At least this guy is right here. Data nerd. I love and stuff, trying to give good content to you guys. I think this is the best out there in the business, honestly, as far as that type of content goes. So check it out. Virginia Tech's maybe the most shocking of all.
Thank you for breaking that down, you. To really appreciate it. Again, one last time, 10 memberships. Carrigo knows we really appreciate your loyalty and your membership, and just encourage everybody. If you get a gift membership, consider paying it forward and giving somebody else one so they can watch those videos. It's really a big deal. Let's get a shout out here from Timothy Green. Says, wow, 10 free memberships. Is that great or what?
Whoop, whoop.
Was there a sounder there, Moen? That's what I'm looking for. Okay.
Give us Syracuse, man, for a long weekend. It's Memorial Day weekend. Come on, cheers up.
Syracuse, Georgia Tech. Take it. Daniel Gygax, while they're drinking, I'll talk about his comment here. West Virginia knew that they were not going to be the big fish when they left the Big East. West Virginia owned the Big East football, and it took time just to adjust to a new league. 3 to 5 years. That's about what it is, 3 to 5 years. I just think the big fish thing is insane to me. In today's football, I don't think that matters. I could be wrong. Here's one from our friend Doc Gibbs. He says, so what just magically caused the UNC Board of Governors to remove the Wolfpack backpack? He asked a very good question.
I can give you 350 million reasons why.
Keep going, Moen.
That's it. 300.
Okay,
if the number is 300 to 350 million,
okay.
North Carolina State's not going to be able to raise that kind of money.
All right, let's move right along here. Joe Z, one of our members, says Bomber on fire tonight. We talk Holy War, we talk UW. Well, that's what you're going to get here. We don't lie who we are. We don't cover that up.
We're a family. It happens sometimes. All's well.
All's well is right. But thank you very much for the comment. I appreciate it. Nick Kelso, new to the channel, or at least new to my eyes this moment. USF to the ACC when FSU and Miami leave. I think everybody pretty much agrees with that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the landing spot number one, focal area number one, is to get back into Florida for recruiting if you're the ACC. So, yeah.
Awesome. Let's see, OPD Don. Good to see you, OP. From what I figure, if the Gore is 500 million and the exit is 140, that's 640. And 60% of that is 384 that FSU would have to pay. He just did some math there. Math wizard.
I like the way you think, OP. OP's the man there. Seriously, that makes a lot of sense right there. 384 might indeed just be the number. That seriously looks like some math they do.
Very good. I love it. And we've talked about this over and over again, what the payout is to keep the ACC alive, and it's definitely more than 300 million. Bottom line. Yep. Line Ted says, welcome new family members. That's the Mafia family we're talking about here. Check out the free videos and feel free to join the College Football Mafia Discord to chat college football 24/7. The Discord link is in the comment. What is that? How do you say that, Moen? It's in the video description, right?
In the video description. I'll go ahead and post it here in chat as well.
That would be great. We do talk football 24/7. Illini Ted's one of our moderators. Rock and Rand is also a moderator. Lots of good people that help us with that. And the bigger the Discord grows, the more stuff we can provide to you guys. It's just another way for you guys to reach us, and it's on 24/7. It doesn't only come on when we're doing a show. So anyway, thank you very much, Illini Ted. I appreciate that. None again says, I would think Duke could go to the Big Ten, like Moen mentioned. So I'm not sure I ever heard Moen say that, but I heard that from Monty. I heard that Duke
well,
was
yeah,
going,
according to Monty, the ACC is going everywhere. Everybody in the ACC is
right. SEC. I think Duke was
he's
going
got
to the SEC.
He's got Wake Forest in the SEC.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah,
Jesus.
Yeah.
Monty might as well put him in the NFL at that point. The NFC West for Wake Forest and AFC East for,
So Moen, clear up this comment then. He's talking about Duke.
I think if the Big Ten, if the Big Ten goes to 20, adding Florida State and Miami, and Notre Dame wants to come along, I believe Notre Dame will be able to call their shot and take Stanford and Duke with them.
There you go. You heard it first.
You think that Duke has a back way into the Big Ten? So this is like
one, it gets you into North Carolina. If you're missing out on the University of North Carolina, you're grabbing Duke, you're getting into the state of North Carolina with a huge basketball brand.
Yes.
It is probably one of the top 2 or 3 basketball brands. Academic fit, consider themselves a peer with Stanford and Notre Dame. So I don't believe it's impossible.
Okay. All right. How about this, Daniel Kopcha? We love you, Daniel. Thank you for your comments on Twitter. You keep us going. Really, really appreciate you being around with us. We appreciate you being here. Moen could probably go on a 2-hour rant. That is definitely not safe for work, 100%.
Yes.
Okay, Moen, I'll give you
after last year's
seconds.
Michigan game, you would have heard it.
How about this? I'll give you 60 seconds. Go.
I don't know what to rant about. I'm pretty drunk.
That's probably the best answer you could have
He's
done.
having a good Memorial Day weekend here, so
as everybody else should. All right, we're going to wrap this up. I appreciate everybody being here tonight. I hope you had fun. We certainly had fun going to the end here. We're a family, and families argue. That's what you do. If that put you off, I can't really apologize for it because it's what we do around here every once in a while, and that passion matters. It's Big Freakin Friday for a reason, and everybody's opinion counts. So we appreciate everybody being here tonight. Final comments as we go into the holiday.
Big changes in college football. House settlement is a game changer for changing the game too. Collective bargaining is needed for stability. Look for that shoe to drop here. I don't know if it's in the near future, but the future. And look for eventually, Moan, 8 ACC teams to leave conference.
Wow.
It might not be same day. It might be like dominoes.
Right.
With FSU, the first domino, then the pressure builds and tips over the next domino, and you get 50% share. You get a full share. You go to this conference. I think it's going to play more like that. So watch for that eventually. 8 teams.
8 teams. Calling his shot tonight. What is today? Is the 24th? Yes. All
24th.
right. Write it down. All right, Moen.
Little more than 2 months until we have 4 new teams in the Big Ten and 4 new teams in the Big 12. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to welcoming my Duck, Husky, Trojan, and Bruin brothers into the Big Ten. And I think the Big Ten Network's going to do a special on that day. It's going to be pretty cool. So if you've got the Big Ten Network on your channel on August 2nd, by all means, tune in. You're going to appreciate it. August 2nd at midnight.
I love it. As far as final words from me, I would just tell everybody, have a safe weekend. We really appreciate all of you. You guys make the channel go, and we just appreciate you being here. Make sure you follow us all on Twitter. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave us a comment or question. Consider joining and becoming a member of the College Football Mafia family. You can do that right on the main page. Hit the join button. You're in. Other than that, I want everybody to be safe. If you've been drinking, do not drive. And everybody have a great weekend. The next show, Moen, are you doing something on Sunday?
Sunday, me and Rock and Ran at 8 p.m. on Moen After Dark. And I would also like to thank everybody who left us a super chat tonight. A big thanks to Kerry Go Knowles for gifting those 10 memberships. Much appreciated. You have something else you wanted to say, you?
Nope. That's it. Okay. Just thank you. Thank you much.
And I don't know about You'll have to watch to see if they're doing Big West Mafia on the holiday. I would guess not, but watch Twitter, and Sergeant Pickles will let you people know. And then, of course, we'll be back Tuesday night talking more college football next week. Appreciate it, everybody. Stay out of trouble. Be safe, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace.